Empaths are often seen as gentle souls, kind, forgiving, and endlessly patient. They're the ones who listen when no one else does, who comfort when others walk away. But even an empath has limits. When pushed too far, especially by a narcissist, something powerful awakens inside them. Their anger doesn't look like shouting or violence. It looks like clarity, truth, and boundaries sharpened like blades. And to a narcissist, that's the most devastating cruelty of all. For so long, the empath tolerated manipulation. They absorbed the narcissist's lies, endured the gaslighting, and carried the heavy weight of blame. But anger transforms them. Suddenly, they stop bending. The empath who once excused bad behavior now calls it out without hesitation. To the narcissist, this feels cruel, because their illusions crumble. The truth, spoken calmly and firmly, cuts deeper than any insult ever could. The empath's cruelty is honesty stripped of apology. An empath's anger shows up in silence. Unlike the narcissist's noisy rage, the empath withdraws completely. They stop explaining, stop defending, stop engaging in endless battles. For the narcissist, silence is unbearable. It's the end of control. They interpret the quiet as cruelty, because it denies them attention. But the empath knows silence is power. It's the moment when they reclaim their energy and leave the narcissist shouting into emptiness. When angry, an empath can mirror the narcissist's behavior back to them, not in cruelty for cruelty's sake, but as exposure. They repeat the narcissist's words, hold up their contradictions, and shine a spotlight on their hypocrisy. For the narcissist, this feels brutal. Their tactics, once hidden in shadows, are revealed clearly. The empath doesn't need to twist reality. They simply reflect it. And for someone who survives on illusion, that reflection feels like the harshest punishment. Empaths become cruel by setting unbreakable boundaries. Where once they gave second chances, they now draw lines in stone. No more late-night excuses, no more manipulation disguised as love. The narcissist bangs against these walls, furious that they no longer work. To the narcissist, it feels like betrayal, but to the empath, it's liberation. Their boundaries are not gentle suggestions, they're final doors closing. And that finality cuts the narcissist deeper than any rage-filled argument ever could. An empath's anger often looks like indifference. They stop reacting to the narcissist's provocations. No matter the insult, no matter the bait, the empath stays calm. This indifference is torture for the narcissist, who thrives on emotional reaction. Without fuel, their fire dies. The empath's cruelty is in refusing to play the game. To the narcissist, it feels like abandonment. To the empath, it's freedom. The freedom to feel nothing where there was once chaos. When angry, empaths use truth as their weapon. They speak plainly about what happened, stripping away excuses. No sugarcoating, no softening, just raw honesty. This honesty stings because it pierces the narcissist's grandiose self-image. They can't hide behind charm or manipulation anymore. The empath's cruelty lies in refusing to protect their ego. The truth is delivered like a mirror they can't escape, showing them who they really are. And nothing enrages them more. Another cruel move by an angry empath is exposing the narcissist to others. For years, they kept secrets, protected reputations, and covered lies. But anger pushes them to stop shielding. They begin sharing their truth openly, with friends, family, or support groups. To the narcissist, this feels like betrayal because their mask slips in public. The empath's cruelty is transparency. By refusing to carry the shame in silence, they force the narcissist to face accountability. Empaths can also become cruel by cutting off supply completely. They stop answering calls, stop engaging in arguments, stop providing attention. This absence is like starvation for a narcissist. They're left desperate, scrambling for scraps of validation elsewhere. To them, the empath's withdrawal feels heartless, but in reality, it's justice. After years of being drained, the empath finally turns off the faucet. The cruelty lies not in hatred but in absence, the absence of fuel. Sometimes the empath's cruelty is in their success. After leaving the narcissist, they begin to heal, grow, and shine. Their joy becomes proof that the narcissist failed to break them. To the narcissist, this feels like humiliation. They wanted the empath weak and dependent, but instead they see strength and independence. Every smile, every achievement is like salt in their wounds. The empath doesn't seek revenge. Their very survival becomes the sharpest cruelty of all. When angry, empaths stop excusing behavior. In the past, they explained away the lie, saying maybe they're stressed or maybe I misunderstood. But once anger takes over, those excuses vanish. They call a lie, a manipulation, a manipulation. This clarity cuts the narcissist deeply, because excuses once shielded them from responsibility. The empath's cruelty lies in finally naming things as they are, stripping away the protective fog that allowed abuse to continue. Empaths can also be cruel by refusing to provide closure. Narcissists thrive on being the ones who decide when a relationship ends. But when the empath leaves without explanation, the power dynamic shifts. Silence becomes the ending, not a dramatic conversation. For the narcissist, this feels unbearable. They can't control the narrative. The empath's cruelty is in refusing to explain, refusing to justify, and walking away with dignity. That absence of closure becomes their loudest statement. One of the most powerful cruelties of an empath is self-forgiveness. Narcissists rely on guilt to keep their victims trapped. But when the empath forgives themselves for staying too long, for believing lies, for being human, the chains break. To the narcissist, this feels like betrayal. They expected endless guilt and shame. Instead, the empath rises lighter, free from the weight that once tied them down. Their self-forgiveness is the ultimate cruelty to a narcissist's ego. When angry, empaths sometimes use distance as their weapon. They detach emotionally, no longer caring about the narcissist's moods, tantrums, or manipulations. This emotional detachment is devastating because the narcissist feeds on attention. To them, indifference feels like cruelty, sharper than any insult. The empath no longer cries, argues, or pleads. They simply stop caring. And that quiet absence of emotion speaks louder than rage, cutting the narcissist where it hurts most: their need for significance. Empaths also become cruel through exposure of hypocrisy. They point out contradictions, not with anger, but with facts. You said this yesterday, but now you're saying the opposite. These simple truths corner the narcissist, leaving no room for escape. The empath's cruelty is in refusing to play dumb, in holding the narcissist accountable with calm precision. To outsiders, it may seem mild, but for a narcissist, it feels like being stripped naked in front of the truth. An empath's cruelty can show in refusing to rescue. In the past, they jumped in to soothe tantrums, fix messes, and smooth over conflicts. But anger teaches them to step back. They watch the narcissist deal with the consequences of their actions. For the narcissist, this feels cruel, because they relied on the empath's endless care. But the empath's refusal to save is not hatred. It's justice. Cruelty lies in letting them face the storm they created. Another cruel tactic is indifference to image. Narcissists thrive on appearances, but when the empath stops protecting their reputation, everything changes. They no longer defend the narcissist's behavior to others. They stop covering lies or hiding flaws. The narcissist feels exposed, humiliated, and betrayed. To them, the empath's silence in public is cruelty, because it removes the mask. The empath doesn't need to smear. They simply stop protecting, and the truth becomes visible on its own. When angry, empaths use growth as revenge. They channel their pain into self-improvement, new skills, new goals, new confidence. For the narcissist, this feels cruel. They wanted the empath diminished, but instead, they see them glowing. Growth becomes a weapon, not through spite but through healing. The empath's cruelty is in thriving openly, proving the narcissist had no lasting power. Every success becomes a quiet but devastating reminder that they lost control. Empaths also hurt narcissists by refusing to react emotionally. No matter how much bait is thrown, insults, accusations, drama, the empath stays calm. They respond with neutrality, or not at all. This lack of reaction drives the narcissist wild. For them, cruelty is silence, calm, and indifference. The empath's refusal to fuel the fire is devastating. What once worked flawlessly now fails. Their anger is quiet, but in its quietness lies the sharpest cruelty of all. Sometimes the empath's cruelty is in their memory. Narcissists count on people forgetting the lies, the betrayals, the manipulation. But the empath remembers. They hold on to details, and when the time comes, they recall them clearly. This precision feels cruel to the narcissist, who relies on confusion and denial. The empath's anger gives them clarity. Their memory becomes their sword, cutting through gaslighting and distortion. To the narcissist, that truth is unbearable exposure. When an empath is angry, they can become emotionally unavailable. No more affection, no more empathy, no more energy spent soothing the narcissist's wounds. This coldness feels cruel because it flips the script. The narcissist, once the source of emotional starvation, now feels it themselves. The empath no longer offers comfort. Their absence of empathy becomes their revenge. It's not hatred. It's the withholding of what the narcissist always took for granted. Another form of cruelty is speaking without fear. Empaths usually soften words to avoid conflict, but anger removes the filter. They begin to say exactly what they think, clear, firm, and unapologetic. The narcissist isn't used to hearing such raw honesty. Every word feels like a blow because it dismantles the illusions they built. The empath's cruelty isn't in insults. It's in fearless truth. Words spoken without fear become sharper than any weapon. Empaths can also be cruel by refusing reconciliation. No matter how much the narcissist begs, pleads, or hoovers, the empath doesn't return. They know the cycle too well. Their anger gives them strength to say, no more. To the narcissist, this finality feels heartless. They're used to being forgiven, but the empath's refusal is their ultimate cruelty because it denies them what they crave most, another chance to regain control. One of the harshest cruelties is exposure to indifference during success. The empath moves on, celebrates milestones, and enjoys life without the narcissist. To them, this looks like betrayal. They can't stand that joy exists without their involvement. The empath's cruelty lies not in revenge, but in moving forward. Each smile, each celebration, is proof the narcissist was unnecessary. And that realization cuts deeper than any argument or confrontation could. When angry, empaths stop playing the savior. They no longer absorb blame, smooth conflicts, or sacrifice their own peace. This refusal feels cruel because it forces the narcissist to face their own consequences. The empath's cruelty lies in neutrality, no longer rushing to protect or repair. They simply step back. The narcissist experiences for the first time the full weight of their actions, and to someone used to endless rescue, that feels like brutal abandonment. Another cruelty is truth told to others. An empath, when angry, may finally confide in trusted friends or family. They don't exaggerate, they just reveal reality. For the narcissist, this feels like the worst betrayal, because reputation is everything. The empath's cruelty is not slander, but honesty. Sharing the truth that was once hidden becomes their revenge. To the narcissist, exposure feels like destruction, because their carefully built mask cannot survive the light. An empath's anger often turns to firm detachment. They no longer react, no longer explain, no longer give energy. For the narcissist, who thrives on constant engagement, this is cruelty. The empath's absence of reaction is louder than any argument. They become like a closed door, silent, immovable, unreachable. That door will never open again. And the narcissist, pounding for attention, realizes too late that the cruelty lies in being completely and utterly ignored. When angry, empaths also use their intuition as a weapon. They see through manipulation instantly, calling it out before it gains traction. The narcissist loses their advantage, stripped of secrecy. To them, this feels cruel, because their greatest tool, deception, fails. The empath's intuition becomes their shield and sword. What once blinded them now protects them. And for the narcissist, nothing feels crueler than being truly seen, without the ability to twist perception. Empaths can be cruel by refusing to carry guilt. Narcissists thrive on guilt trips, convincing others they're always at fault. But when the empath grows angry, they lay down the guilt and refuse to pick it back up. They say, "This is not mine to carry." To the narcissist, this feels brutal. Their weapon is gone. The empath's cruelty is in refusing to shoulder burdens that never belong to them. That simple refusal devastates the narcissist's control. Finally, empaths can be cruel through final freedom. Their anger propels them forward, into a life without chains. They stop explaining, stop waiting, stop longing. They choose themselves. For the narcissist, this is the ultimate cruelty, a world where they no longer matter. The empath's freedom is not revenge, but it feels like punishment to the narcissist. Every step into peace is a reminder that their power has ended. And that ending is the cruelest truth of all. Empaths can also be cruel by refusing to argue. Narcissists thrive on conflict. It's their stage, their fuel, their way of controlling attention. But when the empath grows angry, they stop engaging. They refuse the fight entirely. This silence, this refusal to play, is devastating. To the narcissist, it feels like abandonment and humiliation rolled into one. The empath's cruelty is not in shouting louder, but in refusing to enter the arena at all. Another cruelty is exposing double standards. Narcissists often demand loyalty while giving none, demand respect while offering insults. An angry empath begins pointing this out, calmly but firmly. They hold up a mirror to the hypocrisy. For the narcissist, this feels cruel, because it strips away their ability to twist reality. The empath's refusal to play along is like pulling back a curtain. The cruelty lies in honesty, delivered without apology or fear. When angry, empaths use their withdrawal as punishment. They disappear from the narcissist's world, not as a game, but as self-protection. Yet for the narcissist, this feels like the ultimate cruelty. They interpret absence as rejection, indifference, or even betrayal. The empath's cruelty isn't a T in revenge. It's in choosing peace so completely that the narcissist is left shouting into a void. Their absence becomes a weapon sharper than any confrontation could ever be. Empaths can also be cruel by thriving in ways the narcissist never expected. They pursue passions, build healthy relationships, and glow with happiness. To the narcissist, this feels unbearable. Their plan was to leave the empath broken. Instead, the empath rises higher than before. The cruelty lies in the contrast. While the narcissist stagnates, the empath grows. Their very existence becomes proof that healing is possible, and that truth cuts deeper than words. An empath's cruelty also comes through emotional starvation. Narcissists rely on empathy as fuel, but when the empath grows angry, they stop offering comfort, compassion, or understanding. They go cold. For the narcissist, this feels like cruelty, because it mirrors the very emptiness they tried to project onto the empath. The empath's refusal to give becomes their weapon. Without emotional supply, the narcissist feels powerless, and that powerlessness feels like punishment. Empaths can be cruel in how they reclaim their narrative. For so long, the narcissist wrote the story, casting themselves as the hero and the empath as the problem. But anger gives the empath courage to speak the truth, rewriting the narrative with honesty. To the narcissist, this feels brutal. Their script is destroyed. The cruelty lies in exposure, in telling the story without shame. The empath's voice becomes the knife that cuts through the lies. When angry, empaths sometimes detach with dignity. They don't beg, don't plead, don't fight. They simply walk away with quiet strength. This calm exit feels cruel to the narcissist, who expected drama. Without chaos, there's no control. The empath's cruelty is in choosing grace where the narcissist wanted destruction. That choice denies them the satisfaction of watching someone crumble. Instead, the empath leaves as a victor, not a victim. And that dignity wounds the narcissist most. Empaths can also be cruel by refusing to revisit the past. Narcissists love to drag old memories into the present, rehashing them to manipulate emotions. But the angry empath shuts that door. They say, "That's over. I'm not going back there." To the narcissist, this feels cruel because it removes a tool they relied on. The cruelty lies in finality, in refusing to relive pain for the sake of control. The past no longer belongs to the narcissist. Another cruelty is the empath's ability to heal publicly. Their healing journey, shared openly, becomes a silent indictment of the narcissist's abuse. To outsiders, it's inspiration. To the narcissist, it's humiliation. The empath's story becomes light that exposes the darkness. This feels cruel because it takes away secrecy, the narcissist's favorite weapon. The empath's courage to heal openly is not vengeance, but it feels like punishment to the one who thrived in shadows. When angry, empaths can also be cruel by refusing to be baited. No matter the provocation, insults, rumors, guilt trips, they don't respond. This refusal infuriates the narcissist who expects emotional fireworks. Instead, they're met with calm detachment. To the narcissist, it feels like cruelty. They crave control through reaction, but the empath provides none. The cruelty lies in peace, in being untouchable, unshaken, and unwilling to give the very energy the narcissist needs most. Empaths can also be cruel by loving themselves. This may sound simple, but to the narcissist, it's devastating. Self-love means the empath no longer relies on external approval. They no longer shrink under manipulation. Each act of self-care feels like betrayal to the narcissist. The cruelty lies in independence. By loving themselves, the empath removes the narcissist's power entirely. And nothing feels crueler to someone who thrives on control than watching a person become unbreakable. An empath's cruelty often comes through refusal to be silenced. They begin to speak about their experience, whether through conversations, writing, or sharing their story. The narcissist, who depends on secrecy, feels exposed. To them, it's cruelty, words used as weapons, but to the empath, it's healing. Speaking truth is how they reclaim their voice. The cruelty is not intentional, but it lands sharply, because it robs the narcissist of the silence they once controlled. Empaths can be cruel by no longer believing the lies. They once gave the benefit of the doubt, but anger sharpens discernment. Now, every manipulation is spotted instantly. The narcissist's charm, excuses, and blame-shifting bounce off with no effect. To them, this feels cruel, because their tricks no longer work. The cruelty lies in clarity, the ability to see straight through deception. That clarity makes the narcissist powerless, and powerlessness is their greatest fear. When angry, empaths also refuse to be intimidated. Narcissists may try threats, anger, or withdrawal to regain control, but the empath stands firm, unshaken. This courage feels cruel because it denies the narcissist the fear they rely on. For once, the empath refuses to bow. Their strength becomes a weapon, not through violence, but through resilience. To the narcissist, nothing feels crueler than losing the ability to inspire fear in someone they once controlled. Empaths can also be cruel by moving on completely. They find new love, new friendships, new peace. To the narcissist, this is the sharpest betrayal. They expected to haunt the empath forever. Instead, they are forgotten. The cruelty lies in absence, not being mentioned, not being remembered, not being needed. The empath's moving forward feels like erasure, and for someone who depends on significance, being erased is the most painful cruelty of all. Another cruelty is refusal to justify. Narcissists demand explanations, why you left, why you're silent, why you won't return. But the angry empath provides none. They owe no defense, no reasoning, no apology. This refusal drives the narcissist wild. To them, it feels like cruelty because control slips away. The empath's anger gives them freedom from explanation. And in that freedom lies the sharpest cruelty, indifference to the narcissist's endless hunger for answers. Empaths also become cruel when they celebrate life openly. Birthdays, milestones, laughter, all without the narcissist. To outsiders, it's joy. To the narcissist, it's torment. They see proof they are not missed, not needed, not central. The empath's celebrations feel like cruelty because they contradict the narcissist's belief in eternal importance. Each smile, each moment of happiness is a wound to their ego. The empath's cruelty is simply living well after being broken. When angry, empaths can also expose manipulation in real time. Instead of being confused or defensive, they say, "That's gaslighting," or "That's projection." This direct naming shocks the narcissist, leaving them powerless. For them, this feels cruel. Their tactics fail instantly, exposed for what they are. The cruelty lies in refusal to play along, in naming the game out loud. The empath's anger sharpens their awareness, turning every attempted manipulation into an instant defeat. Empaths can be cruel through emotional finality. Once they decide it's over, there is no going back. The narcissist may beg, promise, or charm, but the empath's heart is closed. This finality feels cruel because it ends the cycle permanently. The narcissist is left with no access, no supply, no second chances. The cruelty lies in the empath's certainty, their ability to end what once felt endless. That final no echoes louder than any argument. In the end, the empath's cruelty isn't about revenge, it's about transformation. Their anger fuels boundaries, clarity, and growth. To the narcissist, it feels like betrayal, abandonment, even punishment. But really, it's justice. The empath becomes untouchable, rising beyond manipulation. What feels cruel is simply truth, delivered without fear. And that truth leaves the narcissist powerless, exposed, and defeated. The empath's greatest cruelty is not destruction, it's freedom. And in that freedom, they win.